I do what I do. He knows what I'm about to tell him right now. It's Mr. Keep Running Your Mouth. That's what I do.
I just feel like I'm the champ, and at the end of the day, I'm just a fighting motherfucker. It doesn't matter. Inside, outside, I can just fight. So I just feel like if it gets down to the wire, and we gotta lock it up, I'm out on top.
Hey, look, as you can see how I'm looking, I stay solid. I'm always solid. I stay fucked solid up, man. You know what I'm saying? To the fans that know.
I do that job outside the ring. I'm a fighter. Like I said before, ain't no safety on the clock, so
I'll take them how they come and make them look ordinary.
Like, I'm gonna tell you this. I never once asked how much I was gonna make, who I was fighting, or any of that shit.
yeah.
Until I fought for the world title.
Yeah.
I never once asked about how much money I was gonna make or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because to me, all that money was irrelevant.
Yeah.
And to me, it still is.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's not hard to make money outside of boxing. I mean, not every millionaire is a fucking boxer.
What's going on? It's Michael Rogers. Welcome to Bodywork Boxing. You're... Hey, at any point in time in this video, if there is any kind of truth, if you like anything, go ahead and put out that stick on my like button. Jab my like button, please. But I've been following the Rolly and Devin saga, and what you heard just now was Rolly on the Porter's way. And I'm gonna use a couple sources in this video. You know, like in college, when you write your paper, you gotta attribute your sources. So I'm gonna use some Porter Way. I'm gonna use some barbershop conversations. I'm gonna use some Eddie on DAZN, and I'm gonna use the FightHype video to kind of make what I'm saying make sense. Cause I did a segment, a 5-part segment, the 5 biggest myths in boxing, and number 5 was that Devin was a boogeyman. Yeah, and it was perceived as being hating. And what I have found is that in some of the things, in the way I look at everything, business-wise, because that's what I have a degree in, business, I look at things kind of different. So a lot of times when I speak on things, it actually comes out as if I was hating, and I'm really not. But I'm seeing that I'll put out some information, and since I'm just a fledgling channel, I don't really get the views and the likes. So when I comment and I say certain things, it's, oh, you just hating. But like, what I'm saying is that there's a very big curve in what I'm saying, because I've said something like, about 4 months ago. I got videos with these very things that I'm bringing up right now, and now more and more people are coming out and saying certain things, and it lines up what I had been saying like 5 or 6 months ago. So I want to get into it. You ever see that commercial growing up? You know what I'm saying? I'm an 80s baby, you know what I'm saying? Born in 80, you know? And it was a commercial with a mannequin. And at the end, it said you can learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle up. Y'all remember that commercial? Yeah? Or am I aging myself? Anyways, I bring that up because even though it was a mannequin, a talking mannequin, and he was, you know, saying everything he was saying, you know, about safety and all that, you know, and people were just looking at him like, who's this dummy? You know what I'm saying? It was like, but the dummy was basically speaking a lot of truth and saying a lot of things. And there's this perception about Rolly that he's a dummy and he's off and, you know, all this. I don't have that perception. The insight he was actually able to give on the Porter's way, when he shined a little bit more light on his personality, and Sean Porter did an excellent job with journalism and actually bringing some of those things out and getting his mindset with how he thinks. And he knows that boxing is like getting rich in it and making money. Like, yeah, that's really your main thing. You can, but that's not the priority. And for Rolly to say that at that young age, let me know that that man, he might talk with a little, he might have a little speech impediment, you know, so many people do talk with a little lisp and he make little faces or whatever. But I believe that Rolly has already figured this boxing game out. And I think that he already knows that he's going to have success outside of boxing, whether it's in acting or if he go to MMA with his martial arts background. I don't know what he's going to do, but I deem that he already knows that it's a trail that he can follow to actually make money outside of boxing. I think that with all the politics in boxing and what's going on, I think that he realizes that, you know, I gotta smell these roses. You know, I gotta actually be real. You know, and I always have these perception versus reality type conversations. You know, when you may be perceiving something a certain way, but the reality of it is as such. So let me just go ahead and dive in. I'm gonna speak on this first thing that he said, you know what I'm saying, in this clip.
They don't want him to fight that much from what I'm hearing. They're asking for too much fucking money. More money than what fucking Devin's worth because he doesn't even fill up an arena. The fucking star right there is me. The one that over there is filling the crowd, the exciting fighter there is me.
And basically what he was basically saying is, in a roundabout way, he was trying to say that Devin and them was like kind of like pricing themselves out. They want too much money. And I'm like, well, you know, if he was the first one to actually say that, then you could be like, oh, you know, that's cap. As the young people like to say all the time now. You know, that's cap, that's cap. You know what I'm saying? Everything is not cap. Because in all actuality, we actually heard the same thing from Gary Russell when that whole contract went down. And they was negotiating and it was about terms. And speaking of terms, you know, I brought up in a previous video that they wanted terms on Gary Russell. And Gary Russell was like, no, I just want to go over here. I want to make some money. I want $2 million, you know what I'm saying? Whatever I want, that's what I want. Even Steven, you know what I'm saying? Let's call it quits. But they wanted terms. And Gary was like, no. So then they blamed that on as to why the fight didn't happen. But then turn around when Bob Arum, you know what I'm saying, he basically made it known that he's not giving T.O. to Devin. And he wanted some terms, like come over here and fight. You know, but when it came down to it, it was like the money wasn't right. And then it was these extra terms, you know. And then you hear T.O. and all them negotiations and all them back and forth and all that banter that they were having, you know what I'm saying, competitive banter. He had also talked to something about pricing somebody out. And so you got to kind of look at like, okay, well, in a sense, his pops, meaning Devin, did a great job, a masterful job in landing the contract and getting a deal and actually getting his son, his young son, very wealthy at a young age. You know what I'm saying? He's pretty much killing the game money-wise. But what it does to the competition and what he's able to do, it kind of like puts it into a little tricky spot to where if Devin's getting paid all this money, they can't really afford to pay for anybody else. And we see a history. I'll get into Eddie in a second. So that's the first thing he spoke about, pricing somebody out. So I didn't see any fallacy in that. So was he a dummy in that aspect? No. That was the reality. You can't be getting all this money and you making sure that your bag's straight, but then you don't have any to pay the other fighters. The other one is what he says in this clip.
I'm gonna tell you like this, Sean. I'll fight you right now. But I want $100 million. You think somebody's gonna put that shit up? You think somebody's gonna put up $100 million?
No, hell no, not for me.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. In the same situation right here, he's asking for $8 million, $5 million. Like, he ain't gonna fucking get that shit. Motherfucker can't even fill up a fucking seat. So you know what? You're really gonna waste my fucking time? I'd rather go after the big fish because at least Tank's a real champ.
The perception of that belt. I mean, is there a mystery as to why nobody really wants to fight for that belt? It's almost like the ketchup bottle. You know how when you get low and some people still do that thing where they add a little bit of water to it. You know, it's still ketchup, but that belt is a little bit watered down. And why do you say that? It's much like a house. The value of something is only worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. So the value of that belt is only worth what somebody is actually willing to give credence to. And right now, right now they're not really even giving any credence to that belt. And I bring this up all the time where when it came down to it, I want to see where somebody actually can show me where Devin actually became the mandatory to Loma. I know he was right next up to bat, but it's this big misconception floating around all the time that he became the mandatory. And he really didn't. And then what did Loma do? Loma actually decided to go unify instead of actually defending his belt against Devin. And Suleiman basically made a decision to go ahead and give this guy a belt almost like a consolation prize, because what really happened was Loma was going to go fight T.O. for Undisputed. Every so often I got to reiterate it because that's my stance. You can agree or disagree, but I also did a video about the myth that there's too many belts in boxing. And I was being sarcastic, but what's happening now, they starting to eliminate all these belts. Why? Because you can't say it's too many belts in boxing, but then you accept a fifth belt. If you want to include the ring, that's a sixth belt. So 6 major belts. So you can't really say that that belt really holds any weight. Why? Because if it really did, people would be beating down the door. You actually have to become the belt. And then also, in this next clip,
I'm gonna tell you what it really is. Haney needs us. Haney needs us. Fucking Eddie don't want to pay him. He broke his fuck, and they don't want to fucking. They don't want to pay what the fuck that he's asking because he's not worth that. And that's what it is. They need me. I sell fucking fights. He don't. That's what it is.
There you go. Rolly talking about Eddie. Eddie don't have the money to pay. So you need dance partners. And he's basically saying that, you know, Devin needs a dance partner. There's only so many different ways that you can actually go about making fights. And one of them is I think that this whole nobody wanted to fight me and boogeyman and all this overhype, I think that that's actually kind of giving the whole, it makes negotiation stale. Because sometimes it comes across as borderline disrespectful because, in all honesty, what stadiums are you packing?
I'll take them how they come and make them look ordinary.
You know, you got a belt to become champion, and then after that, you fought your next 2 step-up fights. And with Gamboa, his last fight before that, he got knocked from pillar to post. Tank pretty much did whatever the hell he wanted to do with him. Devin never knocked him down. Then we go to Linares, and I could pull up the guy's name, but Linares just got dropped, and I mean, it was just like, you're not actually lighting up the whole world. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of potential, but you're not really like that. You're not the how Floyd Mayweather was. You got to get in them bigger bags faster than Floyd. But as far as in the ring to garner that kind of attention and praise and fighting on the app and being conjoined with Eddie, who has a history with Canelo, has a history with Andre, and it wasn't until they came back to the table and agreed to actually have a co-promotional deal that the Plant and Ginger deal went through. So what are we really talking about? The business of boxing.
I hear a lot of people saying they're ducking Devin Haney. Devin Haney's being ducked. Do you call it being ducked, or do you call it a business model? Is it a duck? Is Devin Haney the lone example that this has happened to? No, it's not. Boxing has historically done this. And I think fans, and fighters got to understand this. Either you're going to stand up and fight or you're going to wait to get picked. It's that simple. And that's why I will stand by, and I advocated for, and I did my best to provide freedom to the fighters, and I'm going to call it freedom. Devin Haney and Gary Russell, if they could have got that fight off and the fans could have supported that fight, it would have put a crack in the business of boxing. Imagine they would have made $1 million a piece off of that fight. You know, it would have changed the business of boxing, but everybody's waiting on, no matter what we say, Bob Arum is this, Eddie Hearn is that, Al Heyman is this. Fighters are still waiting for them to put up the money.
And shout out to Barbershop, Fred, you know what I'm saying? I know sometimes, you know, I comment on this stuff because some things I don't agree with. I'm like 80-20 with him as well, you know what I'm saying? But it's a good video. You need to go check it out. It's on Barbershop Conversation, and he's breaking it down. It's like a 12-minute video, but he spoke so many jewels that I had to pull a couple snippets from it just to actually reiterate my point. You know, but first I wanna hear Eddie and what he had to say about this whole JoJo Diaz thing.
You know, I think JoJo Diaz is certainly not ducking Devin Haney, but he's looking at it and saying, Ryan Garcia wants to fight me. I'm mandated to Devin Haney. Let me see what the offers are. You know, and let me decide what I think the easier fight.
So the truth is, he's not really being ducked. But then when you hear about it, it's like, yeah, that might be Eddie's business demeanor, you know, but he sounded real kind of casual. It's like when you want somebody to actually get a fight, yeah, you want them to actually, you know, how to negotiate and, you know, how to maneuver and how to make the other party feel welcome, but it sounded a little casual to me. Wasn't looking like, you know, it's going to be the end of the world if we don't get a fight. And what I'm actually starting to see is that it always kind of seemed like that game musical chairs. You know, when the music stopped, you know, and everybody got a seat. Well, in this case, when the music stopped, everybody have a dance partner. And then Dev comes along, and then all of a sudden he has to fight, but he's never really pulling the trigger. Because, right, you know, the smack talk with Loma, with Linares already on deck, going into the week of the fight, he was talking smack. Right after that, when Tank and Loma had already finished fighting, they were already free and clear, neither one of them deals got done. How? And then I was saying, okay, well, get you a Nakatani. Loma snatched him. We'll get you a Comey. Now Loma get ready to fight Comey. So it's like, you can say you want to fight, make all these fights. And this whole I'm a boss thing, Fred put it best.
If you're waiting for a fight date, you're an employee. I don't care who's your promotional company. You're an employee. Simple. And there's nothing wrong with being an employee, but you can't come out and say, hey, I'm a boss, and you're still waiting for Al Heyman to give you a fight date. You're still waiting for Bob Arum to give you a fight date.
This whole I'm a boss thing, you gotta stop it. Because the reality, the perception versus reality is that when you're independent and people are not beating down the door and you can't post that you got a fight going on and it's selling out in hours or minutes or whatever, like some of these other fighters that, you know, that are filling and packing arenas, even pay-per-view. You know, if you were doing that, then you can fully embrace that whole thing. But until, like Fred said, I mean, if you're subject to somebody else making a fight date and approving your dance partner, then are you really a boss? Are you really a boss? So this whole misnomer that nobody wants to fight and, you everybody's ducking the whole 135. No, because time reveals. It's just like when Dev was going back and forth with Mikey and saying, yeah, and I think Mikey's mom had just died when that news came out that Devin wanted to fight him. But then on the Boxing Voice, Bill came out and said they never wanted the Mikey fight. This was 8 months later. So a lot of things are coming to light after so much time goes on, and then you actually see the timeline of events, and in real time, it would sound like you're hating if you say, no, that's not true. No, it's more to that story. No, it's the business of boxing. Ain't that right, Fred? It's the business of boxing. So for me, I'm starting to hear grumblings that Tank is actually going to go ahead and fight Rolly. And I want to do a whole nother video about Tank as well. You know what I'm saying? But I need some more things to come out, and before I just go making a video about it, I need to get some more facts about this. But I don't want to see Tank versus Rolly. I don't. Because I'm actually outside of T.O. and Josh Taylor, or Mikey, or Regis. Outside of them four, there's nobody I really want to see Tank fight right now. And if the boxing guys would bless us with him versus Mr. Gary Russell, I mean, that's 5. Those are only 5 people I want to see. Because I put Tank on another level than them other guys. So if it's not starting to be geared more towards a legacy-based, some entertainment, but then with some legacy, you know what I'm saying, solely based. Legacy being the steak, and then the entertainment factor being the mashed potatoes and the mac and cheese and the green beans. I don't really want to see that. I think that it would be a good test for Devin to actually fight Rolly. Why? Because you have the master boxer, which, I mean, he's a good boxer. I would say Devin is a good boxer. He's not great. He has a lot of potential against the guy who's only perceived as having a puncher's chance. But a lot of times when people have power, that actually neutralizes what somebody's able to do. And I'm not saying it would be like Nakatilla and Shakur. Shakur was able to knock him down. So I actually value that fight a little bit more, but I think it would kind of be the same because it has been shown that Devin can get touched. And if he get touched, is he going to hold? How is he going to overcome it if he know? And then Rolly got a little edge to him. Rolly might make it a little scrap. Rolly might, you know what I'm saying? Rolly, he's a wild card. And so that's just an entertaining recipe. I think Tank passes that Rolly test very easily, but I'm not taking anything away from Rolly, and I'm not taking anything away from Dev. I just think that if Rolly's going to have a competitor, I just think that it needs to be real, where Rolly need to get the money that he's looking to get. And they need to start, like, somehow, I mean, if you got a promotional company, co-promotional company, however you want to look at it, you know, we got to start seeing the dance partners that we want to see. You know, the people that we want to see you fight. I mean, Tank's feeling the same pressure, where it's like, now, like, training wheels off. Like, let's go. Like, you know, we want to see fighters we want to see you get in the ring with somebody that actually has a chance. You know, I'm now starting to gauge fights to where it's like, if you've never really been in a fight that was considered a true 50-50 fight, or that you had any chance of losing, I'm starting to, like, become turned off to it. I don't get as hype about fights anymore, and I love boxing. But I'll leave it with this last clip, you know what I'm saying, from Barbershop. And basically, he was basically saying it's the business of boxing. And the same thing that was happening to Rigo could happen to Devin. So I think we need to stop all the politics. We need to stop marinating. And we need to start seeing that the business of boxing is stopping a lot of these fights. It's not that some of these fighters, it's only a couple boogeymans. And I've given them their just dues in their video, but I wanted to make this about Rolly and Devin and how I would like to see that fight. Especially since it's looking like JoJo is leaning towards Ryan. Ryan is going to be food for any of them guys, to be honest. I just don't think that mentally, I don't think that he has He doesn't have it. And then with the antics with the Tank thing, even though I didn't really want to see Tank fight him, I didn't. You know, I was gonna watch it, but I didn't want to see him like, oh yeah, we getting that fight. I didn't want to see that. So let's just look at the business of boxing. We gotta stop discounting Rolly because, like that commercial said, you can learn a lot from a dummy. Even though Rolly is not a dummy, he actually spoke a lot of truth and a lot of wisdom in what he's saying. But if you're a fanboy, you're just gonna discount and say, oh no, he's talking about money ain't worth nothing, but then he's saying he want this. It's like, no. Well, just like JoJo and just like Eddie said, he don't look at it like he's ducking. He's gonna weigh his options. And if Ryan Garcia and them is bringing a bigger bag than Devin and them, and you're not gonna gain a watered down belt, because I mean, to be honest, if that belt was legit, everybody and their mom be trying to fight for it. You know what I'm saying? Grandma be up there getting Vaselined up, saying, hey, I want some smoke with that. But they don't perceive that belt as being what it is. And that's just the truth of the matter. So hopefully we can see this fight. That's my take on it. Those are my sources. Hopefully I paid enough homage to the sources that I used. That's it. That's all. Body work.
I root for the fighters, man, and this ain't no just black thing. You guys saw what they did to Riggin Dial. You don't think that's gonna be Devin Haney?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
My word, I do what I do. He knows what I'm about to tell him right now. It's Mr. Keep running your mouth. That's what I do.
I just feel like I'm the champ, and at the end of the day, I'm just a fighting motherfucker. It doesn't matter. Inside, outside, I can just fight. So I just feel like if it gets down to the wire, and we gotta lock it up, I'm out on top.
Hey, look, as you can see how I'm looking, I stay solid. I'm always solid. I stay fuck solid up, right? You know what I'm saying? To the fans that know.
You guys jump outside the ring in the fighter. Like I said before, there ain't no safety on the clock, so